And we are back after a great 4th of July weekend with
Happy birthday, America.
Yes, sir.
With one of the craziest, if not the craziest race we have ever watched in our F1 fandom. Starts off lap 1. Within 30 seconds, we have got to be one of the worst crashes we've seen in a very long time. Outside of, we didn't really see that F2 crash where unfortunately someone passed away. This one really had our stomachs in a pit because
it was
nothing
like
worse. Yes, nothing worse than when they don't show the replay. Yeah. They didn't show the replay for a while.
45 minutes, it was quick to process because they didn't mention Zoe for 10 minutes either. They just said there was a crash. They kept mentioning George. They kept mentioning Albon. And you just see turn 2 and it's whoosh, an upside down car out of the camera frame. And those fan angles, oh my fucking God. I mean, thank God he's unreal. Okay. Because at 6 or when was Halo introduced? Turbo hybrid era. So what, 9 years ago, 8 years
10,
ago?
Yeah, around 10.
You're dying. 10 out of 10 crashes
the second,
the Halo.
It's your head on the pavement that entire time. Yeah, that's not even a question.
And I mean, I know the Halo has done wonders, but the Halo went above and beyond in this scenario. The fact that it was able to withstand that is truly incredible. So those guys have to feel a lot safer seeing that crash and knowing that they can withstand that type of trauma. It was wild.
No, I think, yeah. And I mean, outside of the Romaine crash, which was another one that, you just see a car literally explode, and then no one comes out of a burning car for, 2 minutes. You're like, okay, again, that one, they didn't show anything forever and you're sitting there waiting. I mean, both times, it's just, that waiting period is awful, but, all you can say is thank God he's okay. Good on George for, the quick reaction time, running out to go, the sportsmanship of that, going to see him. But, I honestly don't even know. I still have not really. There's been so much on Zoe. I haven't really seen a lot about what happened to Albon in that whole crash. To be honest, I know Albon got taken over to the hospital as well. Hopefully it sounds like they're both okay. But I just did Halo doing his job once again. But no, it was terrifying. Thank God he's okay, and thank God the fans are okay. That fence doing its job as well. I mean. There's a million things that could have gone wrong there. And probably 15 years ago, there would have been a couple people dead in that scenario.
Yeah. So we lose 3 drivers right off the top. Then we immediately get red flagged. I think we were red flagged for over an hour, right? Had to be.
Yeah.
I didn't even get to watch the race. I left.
There was so much debris. It was red flagged for over an hour. I mean, you're talking about at least 5 cars that were directly impacted from that whole thing. 3 of them severely, couldn't even race again. George wanted to keep racing, I think, but they kept on. They tried to race to fix the car, but couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And although Max had overtaken Carlos, the stewards decided that there wasn't enough race to let that stand. So
they didn't complete a lap, right? Yeah. So they didn't complete a lap, so they had to restart from pole again.
And then
that's what happened. I didn't know
that's why they have I learned that. So basically, if you don't complete the first lap and they red flags, they restart the race from pole.
And right on that restart, insanity ensues. And for the rest of the race, it is constant back and forth between about 6 different drivers going at it. Carlos is able to hold off Max initially, and then here comes Charles from back, starts fighting with Checo, starts fighting with Max at one point. Lewis is kind of in the mix. Charles and Checo have a little bit of a tussle, collide just a little bit, touch each other. Checo damages his front wing. Charles has a little bit of damage, but not enough to really affect his race. Probably he would have been able to keep going to the end. And then eventually on lap 11, after the restart that started on lap 2, Max gets Carlos, but hits a piece of carbon. And what I learned, guess where that piece of carbon came from?
That was the Alpha's carbon.
Yeah.
It was AlphaTauri's carbon. Yeah. So I'm sure on top of what was already a really bad day for Yuki and Pierre, it's probably a lot worse day when you ruin your championship driver's, car. So
Well, and the thing was too, I know who you weren't able to watch. I think Kel, you weren't able to get audio when you were watching it, but the entire time you're listening to Max, like I have no idea what's wrong with this car. Like
Yeah.
something's wrong. They're sitting there, they're trying to troubleshoot it for quite literally the entire race. They sat there trying to figure out what's wrong with the car, and they couldn't figure out. Obviously, finally determined that it was a piece of carbon stuck underneath, the bottom. But yeah, no, I mean the entire time you listen to Max, like guys, I don't know, something just doesn't feel right. Something's wrong. And you hear the Red Bull guys like, we're trying to troubleshoot this thing. We can't figure it out. And Max is just getting more and more pissed. Like, what the hell is happening here? And honestly, it's pretty impressive that Max was even able to do what he did.
yeah,
The entire race just shows how great Max is as a driver. But yeah, you see the frustration in everyone in Red Bull's faces. Just like we can't figure this out.
yeah. So Max has to go into the pits, goes from P1 to, I believe, came back out P7 or around there.
I think he finished P7. Yeah.
And then it's Carlos' race at that point, but Charles is right on his ass, and then Lewis is quickly putting in laps that Ferrari clearly had to make the move that it's either let Charles go or Lewis is coming and he's going to fight both your cars, and you guys are just ruining each other's race by keep fighting. So they give Charles the command. Charles gets through. It really, at that point, for, the most subdued kind of stretch of the race was with Charles's race. He was out in front. Carlos was there. Lewis was there. But it seemed like, unless anything out of the ordinary happened, there would be a good chance that the Charles would be able to win this race. Boom, virtual safety car.
Yeah,
That's
I think before we move on from that, we should discuss how long it took Ferrari to let Charles through.
Yes.
That's the biggest piece. That's why Charles was so pissed at the end of that race, and why he got the little finger wave from Binotto at the end. Like, you're sitting there looking at this race, like Charles is clearly faster than Carlos for the better part of 8 or 9 laps, and they're
just ruining his tires.
Hold tight. And just ruining his tires, and literally they're just saying, hold off, just hold off. And then at one point they go, okay, just hands up, just do whatever you guys want, just race each other. Like complete no strategy whatsoever. And like finally after like 9 or 10 laps of this, you're just hearing Charles flip the fuck out. And they're like, okay, go through. Finally they let him through. But it's like, it took them 9-10 laps with clearly Charles having the faster pace, to finally let him through. It was some of the most frustrating. If you're a Ferrari fan, it's some of the most frustrating television you've ever watched. It was just horrible.
It's just another example this year of just Binotto, whoever's calling the shots over there at the Ferrari strategy, is just, they've blown so many races at this
exactly
point. It's just insane. Like if they had the minds that Red Bull and Mercedes do, we're probably talking about a much, if not them in the lead of the Drivers' Championship, a much, much closer fight here. We're talking about 5 to 10 points rather than 20 to 30 between the two guys. So
yeah.
So there's a virtual safety car because Ocon looked like the car just had maybe some engine issues, just kind of shut down on him. So virtual safety car. I believe Carlos and Lewis pit, correct? I don't know if Checo was able to pit, but I know Carlos and Lewis pitted.
They both pit and left Charles out there. Yeah. Checo, Carlos, and Lewis pit. They leave Charles out, which again is another, like, Charles is pissed about that. Like, what are you guys doing? I mean,
I'm not surprised. We've seen this before. Ferrari's ruined Felipe Massa's career. Ferrari's ruined Fernando's career. Ferrari's ruined Seb's career. I'm not surprised. I'm sorry, Kel, but this is the Ferrari life you chose.
Yes. Surprised, I don't think is the word. I think it's just, it's almost maddening. You're just like, dude, how, there's no words. There's no way to justify the decision-making that went on in Ferrari this week. And granted, no one's happier than me that Carlos got his first win. I'm pretty stoked, and I'm sure we'll touch on that when we finish wrapping this up. But I mean, if you're a Charles fan, you're ripping your hair out right now. Like this, that was just brutal.
Do you think there's a little aspect of Carlos not being a team player because he's technically not in the title fight. Charles has a very good chance to win this race and be back in the title fight. And he's saying no to team orders, saying stop intervening. I don't think Sergio would do that. He'd definitely bitch about it, but I don't think he just straight up wouldn't listen. So I think there's a little aspect of that.
I think
a good point.
I think if Carlos had some wins under his belt, then that would have been a different story. But I think the desire to just get that first win was just so strong.
I could see that.
Even on the virtual safety car, they're telling him, leave 10 car lengths, and he said, no, I'm going for this. He pretty much just turned down team orders, said, I have Lewis behind me as well. I'm coming after Charles. And, Charles is on used tires. On the restart, we have a great restart. It looks like Charles is going to be able to hold these guys off for a little bit, but just eventually, the better tires prevail. Carlos is able to go get Charles. For the rest of the race, Carlos was pretty much out ahead. He was pretty much the number one driver. But what we did have going on is one of the best fights between three cars we've seen in a very long time. Pretty much back and forth for about 4 to 6 laps. You have Checo and Charles going at it, and then what I think will go down is maybe a legendary call, and through goes Hamilton. So you have Checo, Charles going at it. They go wide.
I was standing up screaming at the TV, listen, man, we've had a lot of Lewis hate on this podcast. I texted the group. We were talking kind of hoping
I said
Lewis
it too.
would do this.
Yeah.
I miss my villain, in this, to be honest with you. Like F1 to me is just, it's better when Lewis is at least in the hunt and in the fight. And dude, that was so freaking exciting. Incredible driving, honestly, from Lewis. Like there's no two ways about it. Like, the reason he's the GOAT. Like
I think that car's almost there too.
Yeah,
it's almost there for sure.
I think it is.
It's close.
I think it'll be a little late. I think it'll be a little bit too late. But going into next year, I think they could be pretty. Maybe if Max has a few DNFs, then anything can happen. But I think Max has just been so dominant. But we can get into that later. So that happens on lap 45. That through goes Hamilton. So I believe at that point it is Charles, Lewis, and
Checo. It's
Carlos, Lewis, Charles, and then Checo, correct? And then Charles on lap 46 doesn't give up, is able to go get Hamilton back again. So these guys are just pretty much swapping places. And then finally on lap 48, Charles just doesn't have the pace with the tires. Lewis is able to go get him. Checo's able to go get him. And then from there, you pretty much have how the race is going to go. The only other fight that we saw in the last 4 laps was actually Mick and Max, which,
by the way, phenomenal fucking scrap. That was sick. Dude, if you watch the race, it was awesome. Like, I mean, the only 2 times you'll ever see those 2 drivers in a battle all season, potentially in their entire
that was their second.
That was their second fight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I can remember the first one.
I think it was the race that Ocon won last year. Because Max had that crazy damage and Mick was in the points.
Right. You're right. I forgot.
Still, that's twice in a million.
That was nuts. That was really, really fun. I do think it's also worth mentioning your boy, Checo, arguably one of the best performances. Dude, coming from the damaged wing in the first lap to literally being in last place, climbing all the way to second. In that race was some of the craziest drive. I mean, dude, that was unfreaking believable. Like, I agree. It's seriously time to start having discussions about where he ranks in this entire field as an overall driver, because that was stupid driving. I mean, it was unbelievable.
His racecraft is unbelievable. He is just there. He understands cars, and I think it's because he's a vet.
Yeah, he's very much in this title fight at this point. Yeah, I got to double
100%.
check. I got to double check what the standings are. But yeah,
Max is probably up by like 30 on everybody, I think.
I was going to say, I think Max is still, he obviously is still up.
But I mean, that's still, I think it's, how much. I even think George is almost in the title fight. I think it could be like, if Max has 2 more DNFs, I think we could have a 4-driver title fight.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, look, you got Max 180. Sergio 147, Charles 138, Carlos 127, George 111.
I say that's a 4 driver fight right now. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, Max definitely has the advantage, and as long
Mhm.
as his car keeps up with him, he should win the title. But those 4, they could go at it. And I like what Ferrari's coming back with. I mean, even though last race was tough, I think their package is better right now. They just got to work on the strategy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to, man. It's just horrible strategy.
Yeah, it was like we said, it was incredible to see Carlos win. I'm happy to
Yep.
see Carlos win. But from a team perspective, you're Ferrari, that probably was not the race you should have had. You should have had every intention of Charles win that race. And with Max down in 7th, you get a pretty significant, gap reduction here. And then you go into Austria with, a lot more positivity around the team. Because I think at this point, Charles just has to be like distraught. Like, what can I do on my side from Charles, where there's been 3 races where he has done, one, it was just the car just broke down, a few times it's been, twice now, it's just been terrible Ferrari strategy. So there's been like 3 or 4 races where he's, done great on Saturday, goes into Sunday, starts out as the race leader, has a significant gap, and then they still either find a way for the car to break down or to blow it for him when there's a safety car. So it's like at this point, he's in multiple races. He should have won. He's done everything he can to win these races. And he's just getting, really screwed over by, I'm going to point all my fingers at Binotto. So it doesn't give me confidence going into, especially the second half of the year once we get out of summer break here.
I mean,
theoretically, not in him,
theoretically,
just in the team. It just seems like him and the team this year aren't clicking. Something clearly isn't working out. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be.
yeah, I mean, theoretically, you should have had a Ferrari 1-2 with the way that race was going.
2 damaged Red Bulls.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your 2 damaged Red Bulls, one of them finishes in second, after all that, it's just, yeah. And again, if you rewatch, if there's a replay of that race, I'm telling you, it's worth sitting down and watching the entire thing. Just, I mean, it was just insane. But you're sitting there and it's just, listen, again, I'm not like, Ferrari's not my team, but I love Ferrari. And you're sitting there just like, you want to punch the wall. You're like, what are you guys doing? I mean, it's like, one of us could have gotten in there and had a better strategy, really.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it was that. It was
just like, what is the explanation for not pitting him at that safety car?
When you hear
especially
all the
when
commentators
the 3 cars
like,
behind
what are they
them
doing? Yeah,
it makes no sense. Like, they're worried about losing position to who? To Fernando or Norris behind them? Like, you're gonna pit and go past them. I think.
Yeah, it was backwards. It was the middle of the race part between that 9-lap stretch where Carlos was just holding him off, and it was like, dude, just let him through. Like, if you're Binotto, you say,
how
Carlos,
long was that? Like 10 minutes?
It was like, literally 10, 11 minutes of racing.
That's crazy.
Where you're just watching Charles just trying to get through.
And they're ruining
and he's screaming at the team. Screaming at the team, like, let me through. What is going on? And they're just like, hold up. And at one point they go, okay, you know what, just race. Just go ahead, and if you can pass them. I'm like, okay, so you want to damage your 2 cars. So you want to risk the 2 cars. Like, after wasting the tires, you now want to let both of them burn their tires. And it was horrible all around. Like,
they got a bad strategy team. Like, even beyond Binotto, I mean, it's his fault for leading the whole ship. They need to change every.
It's all the way down, man.
It's got to start from the top to the bottom. They got to get rid of him, and then
because they have it. They do. They have the drivers. They have. Carlos is no scrub. Obviously, Charles is a champion caliber driver. Like, you have the car. The car is now proven to be able to do it. It's tell me anything other than strategy that kept you from having a Ferrari 1-2 in that race. Yeah. It's you won't be able to find it.
And there's 2 other races that you can point to that have that exact same scenario. So it's like there's 3 races now where it's strategy, and then there's 2 races where it's your car just breaks down with engine issues. So it's like all those different factors combined. It's really hard to be a Ferrari fan at this point in the season. And moving forward here, the aftermath from this race is we go into Austria with probably a pissed off Max, in
Oh yeah.
in the Red Bull ring. And to be honest,
Let's go.
I expect a very dominant Red Bull performance this weekend. I
I
expect
expect
Max
nothing less than a Red Bull 1-2.
And
I
I mean,
really
think
do.
if Max
last
doesn't
year,
if Max doesn't get the puncture, he wins this race, this past race.
Oh, without a doubt,
Easily.
this is a
Easily.
much different race if that stuff doesn't get under. It's actually a much more boring race if Max
Yeah.
doesn't get that
Yes.
stuff lodged underneath, because Max was way out. Like, it would have been another Max domination. It would have been a battle for second, no question.
so last at we had 2 races at the Red Bull Ring last year because of COVID. The first one, the Austrian Grand Prix, Max lapped the 3rd place runner. That's how fucking fast he was flying. We are going to see the most dominant Max we've seen all year this weekend. And it's going to be a Red Bull 1-2. And Sergio, he's going to have a good race, and he's still going to be 20 seconds behind Max. Max is going to go out there with his giant hog.
This is his spot, man. The Orange Army is going to be out in full force.
Oh,
like, it'll be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
One of my favorite tracks, honestly. It's a good track.
Oh, absolutely. I love this track.
I think there's a chance that, Saturday is very exciting, seeing who gets on pole. But once we hit Sunday, as far as the 1-2 goes, that's not really a fight. We'll be focusing on what's happening in the midfield this race, because I really do think Max gonna hit the restart or hit the start, get out ahead, and stay out ahead all race. Just one of those where it's never really a doubt. I'm really interested to see moving forward the team dynamic between Charles and Carlos, because it has been, they haven't really fought at all this season. It's been, Charles has been pretty much, starting ahead in every race. They haven't got tangled up too much. Now you clearly have a situation where Carlos isn't willing to back down. In some instances, isn't even willing to listen to team orders. So.
Well, I was just going to say, I was actually just thinking about that, like, because you said earlier, like, do you think that he's getting a little bit, just non-compliant?
Yeah.
To play devil's advocate, it's like, who at this point, when you have such lack of faith in your team and the strategy, it's like, you know what, guys, like, screw you. Like, not only is it, I have the potential for my first race win, but like, you guys have proven to only screw up me and Charles's races all season. Like, you know what? No, fuck it. I'm going to do this on my own. Like,
which has proved him right. I mean, it proved him a win in this race. In Monaco, he decided, no, give me the slicks now, while Charles just rolled in with the pits, didn't tell him everything, had to pit 2 laps later. So I don't know. Carlos, he seems more demanding with the team, and if that's what's getting it done, that's what Charles needs to do. Charles needs to say, prioritize me. I'm pitting now. You're telling him to do this. If you're not, do yourself. If they're telling you not to race. If they're telling you to make a gap, don't. Like, I don't know.
It's a really weird dynamic, man. Like, it's like a quarterback going in and just calling his own plays, instead of just ignoring the OC. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Not good.
But
no,
it's a horrible for Ferrari.
And I think, Hoop, you said it is maybe a 4-driver race, but again, I think we're going to need some Max DNFs to tighten this thing up, because I see any race where he has a good car that doesn't have any damage. I see Max not finishing outside of the podium the rest of the year. With a car that isn't damaged.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think Max is on every podium where the car isn't damaged for the rest of the year. I just don't see any scenario where he finishes outside of that. He's just been so dominant, and the only races he hasn't won have pretty much been, earlier in the year, him and Charles had some good little tilts. But other than that, if he doesn't win, it's just because of the car. Yeah. It hasn't been because of him at all. He's been pretty much flawless throughout the season.
He's so dominant. I would have a hard time seeing him, honestly, in 3rd all season, like second or first. That's how dominant he's been. Like, it's crazy.
Let's read this year's
results. DNF first. Like, you know what I mean? It's just he's been first almost every single race that he's finished.
DNF 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 7 because of damage.
Yeah. It's like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
That's Lewis domination.
That's Lewis Hamilton numbers, right?
That's Seb 9 in a row numbers. Like, that's crazy.
And that's straight domination. In by the way, a year where these cars are a lot more equal. Like, you know, I mean, we're not talking about like the Mercedes dominance of the last, 8 years, or, even Red Bull climbing its way back. And like, I mean, dude, this is straight up like you got three cars, at least two, that are right on par with one another, and it's like, I mean, dude, to be able to do that, it's just that's driver, man. That's who's in the box,
For sure.
Yeah, and then the fight outside of those top five guys, it's Lewis, I guess, is at 93, so he's just got so much ground to make up to be able to kind of get back in this thing. He would need a few race wins and a few, maybe max DNFs. Outside of that, it's, to be honest, the midfield this year isn't what we've seen it in past years. I think you have Lando at 58, Bottas at 46, and Ocon 39, Alonso 28. So I think the best of the rest is clearly Lando. And then Bottas and Alonso are having good years. But I
Bad
think,
luck a little on those two.
Yeah.
I mean, Alonso had a few DNFs. Bottas has had some issues,
Yeah.
but they're both driving good for sure.
Yeah. I think the real fight to focus on for the rest of the year is, outside of anything crazy that happens with Max, you're looking at Checo, Charles, and Carlos. Like who's the best, who's right after Max. I think that fight will probably come down to the last few races.
And and keep an eye on George and Lewis too here.
Yeah.
Like, like really, still got a lot of it, but they've been, especially Lewis, from the start of the year to now, has really started to make a lot of improvements. Has he been on the podium the last two races?
Yes. And I think as soon as he wins one, that's when we're in trouble, because I feel like he's going to win a few. And
yeah, I agree. I think
things could get scrappy. We could see Max and Charles elbows out, and we could see a little bit of a tussle. Like Lewis is very much in it. We have summer break. How many more races are there?
I think, I'm looking right now. So we have
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Go through them. Sorry.
Yeah. So we have Austria this upcoming weekend. We take a week off. We're in France. And then next week after that, we're in Hungary. And then we're summer break. We come back in Belgium at the end of August.
Wow.
And who knows, summer break. I mean, last year, look how pivotal that
a
was.
lot of
when we
adjustments.
came back, it was
Mercedes came back so hard.
Was that Brazil that they came back to?
Well, was
that Lewis's Brazil
that
race?
Was Lewis's new engine, but just their form after summer break was insane, because they had Silverstone was late last year, so it was Silverstone after summer break. Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So a lot could pan out. These next three races that we got coming up, very, very pivotal. Very pivotal. I mean, it's either Max can separate himself from the rest going into summer break, or if something bad happens to Max, we could see, the gap kind of close here, and then we come back from summer break with a lot different kind of landscape than what we're looking at right now.
Yep.
This year's been kind of unpredictable. Outside of Max being, really dominant, I think pretty much everyone else, it's just been a lot of swapping. So I'm excited to see how these next three races go, and then we come back from summer break, and then I think that's when, the season really ramps up. And drivers start to get
before we go on, one more too, like without that DNF, George, we're looking at this point situation with George a lot differently, I think. Again, if he gets another top five, top four, if he ends up on that podium or something, you're looking at maybe even a 5-person battle here, for the drivers' championship. It's all over the place,
Yeah. So we go into this weekend again. Let's go into predictions. Top 6. I'm going to go with Lando. I think Lando's been putting in the work. He's getting slowly but surely kind of making his way towards kind of, those top 3 teams. He's been kind of on their ass in a few races. I don't think he has the car to be able to overtake them in a battle unless he had much fresher tires. But he clearly is best among the rest. So I think he's the easy pick for top 6 moving forward.
I'm going to say, I think Fernando is going to be my easy 6. I like that battle that they've been having. I think when Chip was talking about regulations earlier, about everything's much more even, I think last race might have been the most we've seen it, because we had that 3-way awesome battle between Charles, Checo, and Hamilton. And as soon as they took that corner, you saw
Yeah.
Norris and Fernando right up their ass.
Right on their
We've
ass,
never
yeah.
seen 5 people almost in second ever. So
Yeah.
it's just good to see that gap down. And Fernando's driving his nuts off. So I think Fernando.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Pierre, the Red Bull ring.
He needs it.
See a Tauri in there,
Oh
and I
my
think
God,
that's
does he need it?
and I think he needs it. I think it's just at this point, like for his future, this is a pivotal race for him. I think it's crucial that he gets up there. So
In a little note
My
on
boy.
AlphaTauri, I did read an article, and it's probably just headlines, but Red Bull has officially hired a psychologist to try and tame
It's
Yuki
real.
Tsunoda's fiery personality, is what they said.
are you serious?
Yeah,
they
they
hired
hired-
Marco. Helmet
hired-
specifically got him one.
No
They hired a
way.
sports psychologist.
So this
to tell
is
him to
like-
chill the fuck out.
Wow.
So they've been like doing the first big move was Yuki was to move him from, I think he was like alone in France, and they moved
they
him
moved
to
it.
the AlphaTauri in Italy. So he's like, they're like babysitting him already because he just play video games and eat all day. So yeah, I think Yuki needs a babysitter. He's obviously very young and immature for Formula One, and he could drive well, but yeah, he needs to change that attitude because he does have a fire inside him.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
and
Yeah, he's
he's-
got like
he's-
gamer rage.
He's
Yeah.
not, dominant enough to be yelling at this team like
No.
this. He has
No, not
no
as
leg to
strategist.
stand on. Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
No.
it'd be one thing if he was competing for podiums every single
Yeah.
day, but like, yeah.
He's barely getting into points a lot of these
Like, dude,
races.
you're barely
so,
getting into the
Right.
points. You're just screaming at everyone. Chill out.
We all thought he
That's
was going to be the
hilarious.
second coming last year. We thought he was going to be Jesus.
yeah.
They hired us. That's hysterical. I love
Yeah.
it.
And I think we're all gonna have very similar podiums here. I'm gonna
Probably.
go Max, Checo, Charles.
Max Checo Lewis.
Max, Checo, George
Okay,
is mine.
I like that. I would love to see
Yeah.
George on the podium. But
Yeah.
I do think it'll be the 2 Red Bulls kind of in their own race. Maybe someone's
Yeah.
kind of coming at Checo.
Maybe
but
Charles in between them. Yeah, but we'll see.
maybe.
I want to see the 2 bulls on the podium. That would be.
I
ideal.
think there's
I
unless
feel like they'd
there's
sign Checo for
damage.
2 more years if they did that.
After
Just
that,
throw
they
it
did
at
that.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
they can see through all that orange smoke that's going to be out there, it's going to be crazy.
I don't get how they're allowed to do that at all.
I don't know. It was at
Like-
at Austin too, man. You
Right,
should've
and
seen
they,
all-
like,
in our section,
driving
dude. There was
through it,
orange
yeah.
smoke everywhere. Yeah,
That's crazy.
crazy.
I don't get it.
Yeah. So we got Austria, we got France, we got Hungary, and then summer break. So I'm excited to see what happens for the rest of the season, boys. I think we got
Let's
Max
get a
up front.
competitive race.
Let's
you know?
let's get another competitive race. I feel like the racing gods give us and the racing god take. A lot of times they give us these incredible races, and then the next race stinks. So
Even
let's
like
hope
the next
they-
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's yeah.
So let's hope we
Before we move on, I just want to give props to Mick. First points.
yeah.
Pops would have been very proud. Unfortunately, wasn't there to see it, but I know we all felt that. Congratulations.
Yeah, I
Very,
think
very awesome.
it's almost kind of long overdue. But
Yes.
it's hopefully it's a weight off his shoulders, and he can
Exactly.
keep these performances coming moving forward. Hopefully,
Right.
this is kind of like the spark to the rest of his
Yes.
career, almost.
Yep. Seeing his mom in there and stuff, that was cool.
Great to see
It was a
Seb,
big-
come
yeah.
up and
Yep.
congratulate him after. So,
Exactly. That
So-
was big.
Seb was like screaming on his radio when he was battling Max. He was like, "Get him, Nick!
Yeah,
Get him!" It was,
yeah.
it was great.
Yeah, I love it.
yeah. So a lot of good things coming from this race. Again, congrats to Carlos Sainz. We're happy
Mhm.
Zoe's okay. We're happy Alex is okay. Congrats to Mick on his first points. Hopefully let's get a race that's half as exciting going into Austria. But I'm very excited, and let's do some racing someday.
Go Red Bull.